What's up, everybody? It's LG Doucette here. You're listening to The First Mint, a podcast where I talk about NFTs and the world of Web3. The podcast comes out every Monday morning and occasionally on Wednesdays. If you like this content and you want some more, feel free to visit our Twitter page at The First Mint. So last week we had Thread Guy, who turns out doesn't really write threads. But this week we have a guy named Jack who does write threads. Excellent threads. Threads that get tons of engagement, but that are vastly educational as well. Incredibly helpful and timely threads, because he considers himself not to be a meme master or somebody just trying to grind their way to the top on Twitter. He considers himself, rather, a crypto researcher, somebody who actually wants to read all of those light papers, every single document that the exchanges and the platforms and the NFT projects put out. He wants to read those, and he does, because he believes that using the product, being one of the people who actually uses it, is vital, not just from a standpoint of knowing the space, but also from investing and just being a participant. Jack Niewold is somebody who, in less than a year, has accrued over 100,000 Twitter followers for good reason, because he uses all this knowledge that he accumulates, writes an excellent newsletter, and also writes just fantastic threads. He's a great example as well of somebody who's actually made the leap from their digital marketing agency job into crypto based solely on the idea that they wanted to do this full time. We cover a broad range of topics today. We actually start by talking about what he does all day and how he got into crypto and why he decided to do this, and also how he invited himself onto the podcast at one point. But then we dive into how he actually predicted the Luna collapse, and when he did on Twitter with a fantastic thread again, people snapped at him for it. People were unhappy. People went at him. But he was right. Less than a month later, he was right. We talk about another great thread he wrote titled "How to 100x on Altcoins," and it's not some kind of shill thread. It's very specific and very broad as well at the same time. Gives you a good sense of what maybe a very sound investment strategy is if you're looking to diversify your portfolio. We also talk about his predictions for NFTs and his case for the merge, which is coming soon, and how he labeled what might happen, the fork, which we discussed with OXQuit a couple weeks ago, how that might turn into an Ethereum civil war, although unlikely. So as we wrap up the summer here, end off August, the 8th month of this year and however many months of the bear market, listen to my interview with the crypto researcher, Jack Niewold, on The First Mint. Ladies and gentlemen of The First Mint, we have a very special guest for you today. Somebody that I follow actively on Twitter. I've learned a lot from his threads. As you know, I like a good Twitter thread. Always appreciate them. Jack, the founder of Crypto Pragmatist. I guess you refer to yourself as like a researcher, a big brain in the space, somebody who likes to learn about what's going on. You have threads all over the place. Some threads that I'm like, oh, this is such good knowledge. Like, oh, I'm learning so much about what's happening in NFTs. And other times you write threads where I'm like, I have no friggin' idea what this guy's talking about. It's too deep for me. Jack, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Big brain by no means, but try to keep up with the space. So.
Don't we all? Actually, let me jump on that right away. Usually we get the origin story, but I want to get that after. When you say keep up with the space, what do you mean? What is your you write a lot? That's you refer to yourself as a researcher. So what is your daily process? What do you spend your time doing in terms of how do you keep up with the space? What does that mean to you?
Honestly, I think Twitter is a great space to start. It feels like pretty much everyone in crypto is on Twitter to some degree, right? So if you want to get kind of the vibe of the biggest events, right? Twitter is probably the best place to go. Does anyone check crypto news sites? I don't know the last time I've read a crypto news site. I guess I've clicked from Twitter to a crypto news site.
I've actually been finding some of the Reddit subs to be pretty helpful, because then they table some stuff that I haven't heard of yet, or they just actually some of the Reddit subs table stuff that I'm I never thought of that. They have interesting ideas. So
right.
That's the only other place besides Twitter where I would actually say has some interesting ideas. But please continue.
Yeah, and Twitter gets totally siloed too. So like people don't realize that it's actually probably like a small percent or a minority of crypto in general, right? And it gets really like esoteric, like people are really like domain experts on Twitter and they're talking about really deep stuff when most of people in crypto are not necessarily at that like full time, like I'm a Solidity dev, like let's talk about, MEV or whatever. So yeah,
engaging with memes, writing about what they're buying, pumping their bags. That's not most crypto users.
Right, exactly.
So you mainly spend time on Twitter. What else do you do? Like, what else does a crypto researcher do through the day?
Well, yeah. So I mean, Twitter is just like the starting point. Twitter is just like you get in, you wake up, you roll over and check your phone and see if there's anything new happening on Twitter, right? But then obviously, I think there's a huge advantage to like actually using products. Olaf Carlson-Way, the founder of Polychain Capital, and I think he's like employee number 1 at Coinbase. He talks about this idea of crypto being like 1% builders, 9% users of products, and then that 9% is like relaying information to the other 90% of like investors, right? So there's a huge advantage in just like trying out products, right? Like a platform like SudoSwap, to talk about NFTs, a platform like SudoSwap or NFTX or something like that, a huge, like a tiny minority of actual NFT like users or NFT buyers have actually used those platforms. So there's like just alpha to be gleaned from using those platforms or reading the documentation or hopping into the discords and asking some questions, even DMing the founders. Like most founders are really receptive to questions from like even random anons, with a random PFP or something. So I think there's like there's so much information to be found. There's so much information and asymmetry in the space if you're just willing to like dive a little bit.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I've always told people that your curiosity is your best ally in the space, and to as much as there's money making opportunities, that it's like never stop being curious and asking questions, because that's the knowledge will lead you to better places than chasing the money.
Absolutely. Plus, I think people have like a tendency to see something and then like ape, right? And I mean, honestly, in some cases that people have a good instinct for that. Right. But really, like, you can kind of on day one like go use a product, figure out if it's viable, figure out if they even have a product, because sometimes people will like ship a token or something and they won't actually have the like platform available. So there's like really a lot to be taken away from just like reading documentation and like checking out a decentralized app, a DApp.
So you are one of the few people who goes into those protocols and all the marketplaces, all the platforms, and you actually read the light papers. You actually read like what it's all about and look and talk to the founders. Like we always say that's what you should do, but like very few people, I think, like people just check Discord and they're like, did somebody say this was good? All right, I'm in. Like I think that
Right.
is like, I did my research, is like I looked in a Discord and I searched one word and I did my research. Like that's
Right,
research,
yeah.
but you're doing the real research.
Right, and I mean, on some level, that's my job, right? Is like,
Yeah.
I sell a newsletter, right? And that like the work I'm doing is researching and figuring out how I can relay that in like simpler terms and figure out how to transmit the most important information to my readership. And I do the same thing on Twitter, is like simplifying information, making it accessible, and that obviously can get a lot of reach.
How long have you been in crypto?
Full time in crypto, it's been like a year. So that's when I left. I was at a digital marketing job. I left. I published my first newsletter on August 9th. So a year and 14 days. It's 54 weeks, I guess I've been full time in crypto.
Happy anniversary. Happy birthday. Happy crypto full-time birthday. That's great.
But I've been following the space since like 2017, 2018. Then kind of like fell off a little bit, wasn't following as closely. And then really got into like investing personally in like 2020. Spring 2020 is when I kind of like revisited crypto and was like, oh my God. And DeFi summer, all of that. By 2021, I was like, oh, okay, I think I want to work in the industry. And then transitioned.
What did you what were you doing at the digital marketing firm? Like what kind of work did you used to do?
Yeah, I was hopping around. I've had like a ton of weird jobs, but at this specific digital marketing agency, I started out like doing SEO writing, and I've always enjoyed writing, and that translated well to the newsletter, and was doing some even like PPC stuff, so like some running paid ads, and then the last role I was kind of running a team doing like email outreach, and that kind of also inspired the newsletter in some way, because I realized like how direct of a line email is to people. It's, people really have like 5 websites or 6 websites in their kind of daily rotation, like YouTube, Twitter, email, their work portal, or like, and something else. So email is like a really powerful tool, because people really check their email, people really read their email, and in a way that is like not gated in the same way that like YouTube or Twitter is gated. Obviously then later added Twitter presence, but I realized email was a kind of cool medium and an interesting kind of like business model to scale into with working at the digital marketing company.
Tell me, Jack, like, well, 2 questions for you. I'll start with the first. Well, I have a lot of questions for you. Jack, tell me about when you, like, because I also worked in marketing with like a million odd jobs for a long time. And, I got into this because I had nothing to do during the pandemic. So I was like, I'll finally look into this crypto thing. And here I am now. Tell me about how you like actually made that jump. Because it's like, I get it. Like, you're working digital marketing. And then did you just decide one day you're like, I can do this. I just got to go full time into it and just start writing, and I'm going to have something. Just cross my fingers that people want to read what I'm writing about. Like, is that the jump you made? Like, tell me about that story, man.
Well, obviously, I was like incredibly naive, and working full time in something like boosts you. It like increases that learning curve hugely. I will say, I don't know if you've ever heard of this thread by Niewold Ravikant. He's like a big VC. Yeah. He's the founder of you've seen this and the I know YouTube Niewold, or the podcast that kind of that goes alongside the Twitter.
Tell us
thread.
about it though. I know it, but please tell us more about it, so I don't.
It's called like How to Get Rich Without Getting Lucky, and I listened to that and I was like, oh my god, I have to quit my job. I'm never gonna make it if I like am working for someone else, right? And he talks about concepts of like leverage and like permissionless, building in a permissionless way and scaling. And I realized that there are ways to kind of build and be able to scale like a massive business and reputation in a completely permissionless way. And you can start from nothing and, like slowly compounding, day after day really can like propel you to a new dimension. And, and now it's like, I'm invited on podcasts. A year ago, I had like 200 Twitter followers, right? I'm not like special in any other way. I just kind of like was eager to learn and had high risk tolerance. So I was kind of able to step into that. And
wait, hold on, Jack, hold on. I have to correct you. You invited yourself on this podcast. If you check through our DMs, like 6 months ago, I was like, hey man, good thread. And you're like, yeah, cool. Here's my blog posts. I should come on your show and talk about it. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, sure. And then I was making this, and then later I was making the schedule. I was like, Jack would be actually an excellent guest. But just to clarify, you invited yourself onto this podcast way before. But we're very happy to have you, man. I don't mean it that way.
Well, that's honestly a good example, right? Of not being afraid to like enter these spaces and you can do this. You can invite yourself, in a lot of ways, whether it's like creating a Twitter account or, the one employee I have that's like full time for me, he just reached out to me on Twitter and he was already writing a Substack, and then it was like, oh, this is a no-brainer to work with him in some capacity, right? So like, yeah, I think I obviously like, I invited myself, I suppose, but that's a good way to like get on a podcast, right?
Dude, of course, man. Yeah, of course. Shoot your shot, Jack. Absolutely.
Exactly. Shoot your shot.
Your whole thing, your whole story of the last year is basically that, right? So I appreciate that. I'm curious. I do want to talk specifically about your content. Tell me about Like what, being, you clearly have a lot of experience as content marketing, and content marketing in the last 10 years is all about testing. It's all about like, okay, do this kind of stuff. You see the click-through rate, you see the engagement rate, like this is doing well, this isn't doing well. Here's what people want to hear about. How do you, like, what has been your most like popular content so far? Because you're talking about your inspirations like Naval, you have a lot of fantastic content. Like, tell us, like, and for the people who don't know you, especially listening to this, like, they're going to consider going to follow you and signing up to the newsletter. What is your best content? What do people look to you for the most?
Yeah, I think the best content, like the content that does best on Twitter specifically, is the content that like takes a really big, timely subject that's a bit difficult to understand, or takes some, has components that are kind of like spread out and then consolidating it into one thing and like writing a thread. So if you look at the best threads, I like the biggest threads, that have boosted my Twitter presence massively. It's like when they arrested that couple who had $3 billion in Bitcoin that they were trying to launder. That the day that news came out, they were talking about the Razzle Can, like the music video that she had made, and she was trying to be like a TikToker, and then there was all these people trying to trace the flows of the Bitcoin, and by consolidating that, like it was one place where people could like see this whole saga, and that did really well. And then later, like the Celcius blow up, I wrote a thread about that, and there was all this stuff happening on chain and behind the scenes, and that was another successful one. So like taking a really big topic with information all over the place and consolidating it into like a tight storyline, even that's accessible for kind of all people. That's like when crypto content really hits.
What do you not write about? Like what have you written about in the past? And it's like people are like, Jack, this is, or worse, they don't tell you. Nobody engages. There's no likes, and you're just like, man, I spent 2 days on this thread and nobody cares. Like what is? We've all been there. Anybody making content on Twitter or newsletters, pods, or whatever knows that feeling. You're like, wow, I thought I was excited for this, and no one cares. So tell me about that. If there's anything like that you're like you wanted to write about, but now you've decided you're like, that's off the table. Like nobody wants to hear about that.
Yeah, obviously there's sometimes, like, it's hard to predict what is going to do really well and what isn't. Sometimes you have a really good feeling, and sometimes it just, like, it flops. But I will say, like, as a rule, I try to be, non-controversial. Or I don't try to, like, attack something or, like, FUD something in the space, right?
Right.
Because I realize it's just kind of, like, negative EV. And another big Twitter account in the space, the DeFi Edge, he kind of talked to me about this concept, where the kind of boiling point here was a thread I wrote about Luna, pre-Luna collapse, and I was like, it was like the Luna expose thread, and then I just got like absolutely torn apart for this thread, right? For a couple of reasons. And to be fair, there were like a few kind of inaccuracies in the thread that I do regret. But I realized when then Luna collapsed, right? And you're like, oh, look, I'm a genius. But no one actually cares because they all lost their money, right? So they hate you either way, right? So they hate you when you write the thread, and then they hate you if you're right. So it's like there's nothing to be gained from really like negative content in the space, which I think is actually an issue in crypto because we need contrarian opinions, but like personally from a brand perspective, I try to stay away from like controversial topics because it ends up being kind of like a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, so after you wrote like the Luna warning thread, there were a couple inaccuracies in it. People hated you for it, and then when Luna collapsed, nobody came to you and was like, Jack, you're a hero, you were right the whole time. Like there's
right.
that didn't happen. People were just crying in the streets, they lost all their money, and they didn't care that you were right. Yeah. And
I think the people who were like most successful around that Luna situation were the people who like Galoy Capital, who bet big around it, and then he had like some skin in the game, and then he made a bunch of money off the Luna short. Obviously, like I didn't short Luna in size, so it was like, oh, okay, so.
How do you manage actually? Because this is a hot topic, obviously in the crypto space of influencers, right? And even while we're doing this interview, one of the hottest things this week is the whole another like BitBoy scandal where he's suing somebody who said something about him on YouTube, and now that YouTuber is raising money, and it's making the whole situation even worse for BitBoy. Totally separate story for those listening, but the question of influencers, people who make really good educational content for people, but then some of them are paid by those things. They don't disclose it, or they dump on their followers after. Like we see that in the NFT space. We see that in the crypto space. How do you manage? Like, I don't think that you're really, like, to me, you're not really in that realm, because you don't really write specifically about that kind of stuff. Like, you're not so much there. But how do you manage, like, trading the stuff you write about, right? Like, even think something like the merge. Like, you've written about the merge, and I do want to ask you about your merge civil war thing coming. Do you then, like, if you know you're going to put out a big piece about it and it's going to get a lot of engagement, or people are going to really like the content, how do you manage that from your own, like, investment perspective?
Yeah, it's complex. I think the ethical way to go about it is just disclosure, right? So, like, disclosure and consent, kind of. If you have a position, or I think, like, when people get most upset about this is if it's like a small cap project, or like, an NFT or something where you actually have, like, an impact on the price of this thing. And then you like using your followers as exit liquidity. That's kind of like that's the biggest kind of issue that we see, right? But just disclosure, right? So saying, like, look, I have a position here. I'm not telling you to buy this. And then, in fact, like, moving away from things that can even move price. So, like, something like the Celcius thread. Where you write about Celsius blowing up, it's not like there's, like, a directional position that you have in stake. Like, you're not. I guess there was a Celsius token to trade in this case, but I had no position in Celsius. When you don't touch the assets involved, it's really a lot easier to, like, distance yourself, right? Because you don't have any skin in the game. And I guess that's kind of one of the sacrifices you make by producing content, is, like, recognizing that there is this dynamic around these assets that you can move in price, and it is tricky to manage, but just, I think most people, trying to behave ethically, not dumping on your followers, those are all good best practices.
It's something I think it's something new for a lot of people to learn, because I think a lot of people who are content creators, influencers in the crypto space, to me, seem to be people who have never been in that position, right? So it's not people who have been influencers on other platforms in the past, right? And nor has influencing on Instagram, that does not resemble anything like influencing in crypto. So it's significantly different either way. Jack, I want to ask you. I wanted to get specifically into, like, more, like, crypto insight, and a lot of, like, looking at, like, what's coming and where we're at in the space right now. I consider you an expert, at least somebody that I whose knowledge I really want to tap into. You had a recent post about the Merge civil war. We're about 21 days away right now from the estimated merge date of September 15th, and people will be listening to this just a couple days after we record it. Tell me about that merge civil war post, and what you're expecting there.
Right. So the idea of this merge civil war is that the merge, right, just for anyone who doesn't have complete background on this, is like a switch of consensus mechanisms on the Ethereum blockchain, and it's going from proof of work to proof of stake, which is this new consensus mechanism. There's a bunch of benefits associated with it, and also some cons. Other people are on the side of proof of work. The idea of this Ethereum civil war is the idea that after the merge, one chain is going to continue on proof of work, and then the other one is going to go to proof of stake. And where are people going to be developing? Where are people going to be launching their projects? One thing that's very important is which chain stablecoin issuers are going to recognize as, like, the valid chain, because when a blockchain forks, all of the assets kind of on top of the chain fork. So, like, an NFT will have a proof of work version of the NFT and a proof of stake version of the NFT, hypothetically, as long as, like, everything is supported on the proof of work platform. So, the idea is that, there are people who are proponents of this proof of work chain, and this is going to happen. People are going to try to fork the blockchain to move forward on proof of work. Some people say, like, this is a cash grab for miners to extract the last bit of profit off of their mining equipment. There's a lot of logic around here. The stablecoin issue, I see this as the biggest issue, or the deciders of the issue here is like the social layer, and then the stablecoin providers, in my opinion. So the social layer being like, where is the development going to be? If I am, a big crypto protocol, am I going to be continue to build on the proof of stake chain or the proof of work chain? And 99.9% of people are going to be on the proof of stake chain. This is like the social consensus. The other thing is the stablecoins, because so much infrastructure is built around stablecoins, and if stablecoin providers like Tether and Circle, who have USDT and USDC, if these providers decide to honor redemptions on the proof of work chain, that could be like a really big upset, right? Because now your USDC on the proof of stake chain is valueless, and it's no longer stablecoin because you can't redeem it for $1, and then the stablecoin on the proof of stake chain does become valuable. Although stablecoin providers have already announced that they're gonna back the proof of stake chain, so this has become less of a topic of contention in recent months. But yeah, my opinion is there is going to be a proof of work chain. People are going to try to make this a thing. Their intentions, who knows? I can't necessarily speak to that. But if I had to guess, I would say there's going to be maybe a couple days of chaos where people are likely selling off their proof of work Ethereum, or maybe there manages to be some traction on this other chain, and then the proof of stake chain continues to be Ethereum, and everyone recognizes it as Ethereum, exchanges, stablecoin providers, and that would be my guess as to where things are going. However, there is this kind of slight possibility of this fork, this civil war.
What else? I mean, we did actually chat about that with another guest a couple weeks back to try and understand that, and it seems to me like it's very unlikely that many people will use the proof of work chain still. But what besides that, Jack? Like, what else are you anticipating around the merge? And for people listening, like, we're an NFT show. We don't usually dive into topics that are as like, I guess like the center of the crypto world, like the merge. We go a little bit more niche than that, but inevitably, I have a feeling like it is going to significantly impact, or it has the power to significantly impact NFTs across all chains and the whole ecosystem. Can you tell me a little bit more about like what else might happen before, during, after the merge that is either going to affect like any of our crypto holdings, our NFTs, or just the space in general?
Right. Yeah, I think I'm excited personally about proof of stake. One of the big arguments against NFTs is the idea that like, oh, you're burning the rainforest, right? And I mean, I agree to some extent. Proof of work chains are notoriously energy hogs, and I think that's a fair criticism of crypto. Some Bitcoin people will argue that there's renewables and involved, and there's all reasons why crypto is actually sustainable, why proof of work is actually sustainable. But I'm kind of indifferent, and I would say like proof of stake is objectively better in terms of like energy efficiency. And that's huge, right? This idea of now we can't, now there's one less argument against crypto. There's one less argument against the validity of NFTs. So I think that's huge from like a narrative perspective. That's something that's got me excited. The other thing that's cool is with the merge, issuance of new Ethereum tokens is going to slow down dramatically. So the inflation of the Ethereum network is going to be cut by something like $20 million per day, or $15 to $20 million per day at current Ethereum prices. So if you kind of think about that, you go back to like the base principles, right? That means that $15 to $20 million less is effectively like gonna be bought up, or no longer has to be sold. So right. That kind of provides this like intrinsic pressure to make the price go up. And obviously NFTs being denominated in ETH, that's like good for the underlying asset. And then I kind of see NFTs as like ETH exposure intrinsically, and maybe like positively like correlated ETH exposure, in that when ETH moves, NFTs tend to move more, either to the upside or the downside. So that's good for people who, that's good for your net worth in dollars at the end of the day, in my opinion.
What, Jack, my skeptical case on the ETH issuance thing is that
where is that demand like coming from? Like, who's buying all that ETH right now, and are they like who is that? You know what I mean? And are they're aware that the merge is coming, so are they going to stop buying? You know what I mean? Like, it's like that's actually something I've been curious about. Is all this new ETH is being made every day, and it's going to stop being made. Everybody who's buying that ETH knows that, or do they? And maybe, I don't know if that's something you've researched. That's my kind of like not counterpoint, but my kind of big question is like, I get it. It's going to become more scarce, but the people buying it know that, right? So
right, that's fair. And I think like we could see, if I had to guess, right, and I'm not a hedge fund guy, so I have no idea. Perhaps, I mean, really, no one knows, right? But I would say that like crypto generally is like a sell the news type of space. So we see we see like a big news event, and then the asset sells off, even though it's a positive news event. So I think that could happen. So like once the merge goes through, ETH sells off just because that's kind of like a typical pattern in the space. Two, there is like tech risk around the merge. So like Ethereum could hypothetically break in some way, or the fork risk, right? So I think people might sell ETH pre-merge. So I think it's possible that we could have some like negative selling pressure. The beauty that you say though is of the scarcity is at post-merge, no one has to buy Ethereum for the price to go up, because there's going to be network activity that's consistently burning more and more supply. So if demand stays the same and supply burns, we don't need any new buyers to come into the space for the price to kind of inch up day by day by day by day. And I think that's a really cool aspect.
What's going to be next for the narrative of ETH? Because for so long when I've been in, it was like at first it was like, okay, ETH is wonderful, it powers all this stuff. And then it was like, okay, the merge is coming, that's huge. And that started when Vitalik announced they're going to start doing the merge. I think it was like November 2020. So you were around then, and it was like, we're going to see if we can get enough ETH staked to start doing the network, to do the shift. And they did. And it was like, the merge is going to happen. And then that's like, ETH was, before all that, ETH was like 100, 200, 300 bucks. And then it started the ascension, along with many other things of the market. What becomes like post-merge, everything you just said sounds very realistic. Like that could happen to sell off at certain points. 2 months after the merge, what is the long-term narrative about Ethereum? You know what I mean? Because for me, crypto is so much about narrative still. It's still like speculative. A lot of our NFTs is like, I'm holding this because they're going to become a brand that makes movies, and it's as though you can just wake up and make successful movies. Like, it's so easy. But you know what I mean? It's like, to me, like even the NFT market is so speculative. It's like, one day these will be worth so much. It's only one of 10,000 of these things, and this is going to be a giant brand. Like, and crypto is a little bit similar. It's like, hey, one day the entire world will use Bitcoin as ATMs to trade money. So for ETH, like, what becomes the narrative of Ethereum post-merge? Like, what do people shift to? Be like, here's why I'm buying ETH, because it's all this stuff is going to happen.
Right. Well, I mean, I would say ETH is still like the biggest, smart contract platform, the biggest place to buy NFTs. So it still is going to maintain that spot as like where most activity in crypto kind of sits, where most people are building in crypto. So that's one narrative to me. Also, people talk in the traditional finance world and in crypto about like reflexivity of price, and that's the idea that like when something goes up in price, then that's a signal to buy it, and it it kind of becomes this like self-perpetuating cycle. It's like, oh, it's going, it's a good investment, and then it becomes a better investment, because this price is kind of climbing. So I think the newfound scarcity element could have some like reflexivity, and it becomes an objectively better investment post merge. So I think that's a huge narrative boost, and I mean the kind of like soft narrative boost of like we're moving along on the ETH roadmap. This opens the door for sharding, which is going to make ETH even more scalable, and like the proof of stake environmental benefits. I imagine that's going to open the door to new buyers and new people who are now more eager to explore this ecosystem because they kind of had some doubts around this environmental issue. So I think there's a ton of narratives. It's hard to predict the narrative, but I think there's still plenty of room. Plus, a lot of people can think up an interesting narrative in a lot of ways.
I'm looking at you to do that, man. That's I'm trying to say. I'm just suggesting like a newsletter or a thread for you. I'm like, just tell me what the new narratives are. Like a week after the merge, just make a thread for me that's like, here's what you should say about Ethereum to people if they're like looking to invest or whatever. It's like just tell me what.
You're right. There's an argument to be made that like yeah, okay, well, what are we waiting for? You know, what makes Ethereum the next new thing now? And you're right, maybe some of that goes away a little bit, but
Well, I
if
don't know,
price
but I
goes
don't know,
up-
but that's why I believe in people like you. Just you tell me what I should say to the skeptics. I do have a few other questions for you about some other recent like great threads that you've written, and what I do like about you, Jack, is that like your research, you gave us a sense of like what posts are most successful for you and what people want to listen to. But I do find that your research is scattered in a good way. That it's like, okay, one day you're talking about this, and one day you're talking about another thing, and it's clearly based on just like whatever's kind of piquing your interest at the time. You had a thread recently about how you won't spoon feed us an altcoin that does 100x, but here's a thread about how to turn us into a speculator or investor that can find 100x. We all have to be honest with ourselves. Like at the end of the day, crypto is exciting because there are 100x's to be had out there. It is fun. I'm a big collectible person. I like collecting on a low scale as well, daily. But it is nice to think that it's like, hey, the more I get in on projects, stuff that I think is cool, read some light papers, get in on stuff, not only will I discover new things and be part of this new industry, but it's clear that it's like, hey, there's some money to be made. Tell me about that thread, man. Like, let's say I'm a person who's relatively new to crypto. I'm trying to stay sober with my investments. I'm trying to look for that and pique my interest. How do I become a speculator or investor looking for that 100x? Tell me about that thread.
Absolutely. The kind of core principle I was trying to get through with that thread is that we should make decisions not based on like the best possible outcome, but we should hone our process of trying to make increasingly good decisions and kind of evaluating constantly whether we're making a good decision or whether we're hoping for the best possible outcome, right? Because, and I use the kind of metaphor of poker there. So people talk about like playing fun in poker, and that's like, that might be, I'm going to get involved in a lot of all-ins. I'm going to try to, 10x my stack tonight or something, right? Where the way, and that's okay, if you're trying to have fun playing poker, right? The way professionals play poker is they try to make good decisions repeatedly. And that's how you end up making a lot of money over time, is you say, okay, is this a hand I'm going to play? How am I going to play this optimally? And to translate that to crypto is like, okay, I have $10,000 that I'm going to invest in crypto. How can I invest this optimally instead of, trying to, like, I'm going to buy one mutant and hope, they make the mutant movie and I can get a cut of the royalties or whatever, right? That's your hope is not a plan, right? And although that might be a good investment, doesn't mean you're getting lucky, or doesn't mean you had a really strong process, right? Diversification is one way to improve the process. Figuring out like what signals are positive and what signals are negative is part of the process. Understanding macro is part of the process. Doing good research is part of the process. And what I posit in this thread is, okay, let's work on process over working on like hoping for 100x.
Dude, I love that. I do feel like that's kind of like, that is sometimes the alpha that some of us in NFTs are looking for, where like, or at least that's what drives the market sometimes. It's like they just announced Apes movie with Coinbase. It's a 3-part movie. And then it's like ape sales go nuts. And it's like, why are you buying the ape? Like, well, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to put it in the movie? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, that is, or at least, I don't know if that's why people are buying it. People are probably buying it as like a stock. And so they're like, okay, this is good news. I'm going to go up. But it feels that way. And it feels that way. They're like, oh, I guess everybody wants to be in the movie. So it's good to hear you say that and to kind of have that kind of like sobering advice that it's like that's kind of what it takes. I'd love to get your take, Jack, as well as again, we are an NFT podcast. There are a lot of different chains out there. There's a lot of L2s, scaling, NFTs. To me, the one of the big battles, at least from the VC side, is like, okay, which chain is going to be the chain? Or is it going to be all chains are there and it's all about interoperability? What is going to be the winning marketplace, the winning platform? We cover a lot of like Dapper products. So we have like Top Shot and NFL All Day. So a lot of the brand stuff. We partner with a lot of brands as well to kind of, cover their stuff as it comes out. So I'm a big intellectual property person. So we dabble with projects that are on Flow, that are on Immutable. I have never, ever, ever, ever in my life touched Solana in anyway, not as promo, not as like, not even a wallet. I think I have like a Phantom wallet somewhere that I started once, but I'm curious. And there's many other suitors as well, like Polygon, that are places trying to be the scale of NFTs and trying to be the place where people are going to launch their collectibles and their art and their loyalty programs and be the place for consumers. I would love to get your take generally, especially as the crypto pragmatist, somebody who is like all about the use case of this stuff. What do you think of like, what is the future of like scaled NFT chains? Like what is going to come there?
Yeah, this is something I think about a lot, and to me it feels like ETH is like designer, like is there? I'm not sure what's considered a blue chip and what people consider a blue chip, but is there any blue chip away from ETH at this point in time? I don't think as a casual NFT observer would say there is. I mean, even like you see like the first NFT project that launches on any new chain that supports NFTs is like Punks, right? And that's like at its core a derivative. You have Sol Punks, you have Tezos Punks, you have Phantom Punks. Where are Punks? Ethereum. They don't have to say like ETH Punks, right? It's just like, this is, right? There's a VC I know who talks about ETH as like Apple, right? Where they're servicing the high end of the market. They're servicing people who are they're not competing on price. And I think that's a good kind of mental model to think about Ethereum. It's like, here, this network is not the Walmart of blockchains. This network is like a slightly designer product, an upscale product. So I think my guess is ETH has a tremendous advantage and will continue to be where we see like blue chips. But as this stuff gets more expensive on mainnet, we might see a lot of kind of fighting over that the rest of the space, the kind of the lower end of the space.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What do you think? What are you? Let me think how I could shape that next question. You see Ethereum as like the Apple or the Gucci, or as like the premium place to be, and I agree with you. That is the OG, and you're right. Like a lot of new NFTs on other chains, they start with Punks, and it all feels like some kind of weird derivative. Do you see a future where we don't talk about chains anymore? You know what I mean? Like once your grandma gets on chain and everybody else, like, does that shit matter at all? You know what I mean? Like, do normal people, are they ever going to care that they're like, oh, I finally got my Tezos wallet? You know what I mean? Like, is that a sentence that a dude walking down the street will ever say in crypto or in NFTs, let's say?
I think slowly but surely that will begin to happen. That people will care less and less what blockchain their NFT is on. As long as there's like a use case, speculative or otherwise, and as long as it's secure, right? You're still gonna have like property rights on this chain. I think we'll see it become less and less important. Obviously, I also think people are gonna interact much more with like the front end than the chain. People aren't yet. I think that's a strong possibility. 20 years from now, people aren't even gonna know what blockchain is on. But I think there's a long way to go, and that kind of front-end infrastructure definitely has to be built out in advance.
What do you think? You had this wonderful piece, and this is actually the piece that you wanted to share with me. You wanted to talk about on the show, was the NFTs for NFT skeptics, and you kind of listed like some really great NFT projects. You're like, this is a good use case. Like these things might be able to transcend to the masses. What do you think? Like, I want to get like a wild prediction from you, Jack. Because you dabble a lot in the future, and again, true to the name of your publication. What's the most surprising thing that you think NFTs will become for people? Like, what is the thing we always talk about? Like, hey, it's going to be your house deed is going to be an NFT. Somebody got served in England last month as they were like summoned to court with an NFT. Like we're starting to see, what do you think is the most like shocking, or the thing that we cannot predict right now that NFTs will become?
Man, that's a really good question. I would say NFTs are going to become a way of moving financial assets, like groups of financial assets, right? So if I had to guess, I think in the future you're going to be able to like have a leveraged position against ETH collateral as an LP, and all of that is going to be collateral against another NFT, like a JPEG or something, and you're going to be able to sell that as an NFT. That's one use case I think is interesting, and I think increased financialization is obviously like one of the strongest use cases we see in blockchain. But I think in coming years we're going to see this like idea of like a non-fungible financial position, and people are going to be able to speculate and sell those kind of groups of either like locked financial positions or something and they're going to be valued at a different way based on the long-term nature of how long it's locked, or the debt or the interest rate, stuff like that.
Interesting. So I could sell my like financial position in a certain like group of assets, basically.
Right. Like there would have to be some component where there's like some reason why these can't be kind of liquidated and sold off separately. Yeah, but I think that's an interesting use case.
That's a cool thing. How many? What NFTs do you have, Jack? We didn't ask you that question. I think it's a very important thing. Tell us about your NFT collection.
I have about 27 NFTs worth 0.00008 ETH.
Congratulations.
No, my prized NFT is a GM DAO token. So it's a DAO that runs a studio that creates generative art. So that's the NFT I'm most kind of involved in. And then I have a bunch of washed up PFP projects and like a tubby cat and like.
I always say it's the true mark of a degen, man. We look at your OpenSea, like, we go check out your wallet on an OpenSea, and it's like, if you have some of that stuff, it's like, all right, this guy knows. This guy knows what it's like to be NFTs.
Right. I obviously dabble. And honestly, yes, there's some weird stuff too, like some NFT, like, I forget what this one is like. It's like a conceptual art piece that's like a GIF with like a house music track, and there's like some weird stuff that I've minted because it's going to be the next big thing, but it's illiquid.
Yeah, I love it, man. That to me is what NFTs are all about. Like at first NFTs, people were like, "Oh, it's an opportunity to flex your online identity," and I'm like, now it's an opportunity to show how like legit of like a degen you are is by being like, here are all my shitty NFTs that like don't matter, but that I minted because I thought they were cool. It's like you can track that. You can be like, I'll show you how long I've been around. It's more like it's like more street cred than it is like premium cred. You know what I mean? Like that to me is like kind of what NFTs are becoming.
It's like having like scars or something, or like
exactly, because everyone would be like
a tear tattoo.
It'd be like, here's the all-time high I didn't sell at. It's just like, oh, nice. Like you thought you had that much money and you don't, right? That's the true mark of valor in the space, or like I bought a project that rugged or something like that.
Right.
Okay, Jack, we're at the end here. Usually at the end of our shows we play a little game, and the game is called Would You Rather. Okay, and I give you two options, and you tell me which one you would prefer. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Would you rather? I only have two questions for you. Would you rather to be stuck still doing SEO and PPC for your agency job, and that's what you have to do, and I don't know what brand you were working on before, but it's them. It's whoever you think about when you're like, that's what I used to do, and it's the whatever good or bad brand or whatever you had,
right.
Or you are doing what you're doing right now, but the only threads you're allowed to write are mean threads, like your Luna one. It's only like threads that people hate you for, but still get a lot of engagement. So those are the options.
I think I would. Oh God, that would be so horrible. I think I would go back to the SEO job. Honestly, maybe I'd regret it. But I just like having thousands of people hate you on the internet is something that like has only ever been able to happen in the last 10 years, right? And I think like there's something about the human, like your brain can only take so much like negative social pressure before you like turn into a raving lunatic. So I'd have to go back to doing SEO. I enjoyed it, to be fair, but
okay, good answer. Second question for you, and actually, I before I ask you the would you rather, you posted recently about how you are the fastest man in cryptocurrency and how you can beat anybody on Twitter in a 5K. What is your best 5K time? I have to ask you.
My best 5K time is 16:59. So I think there's actually Andrew Wang. He's a big NFT guy, right?
Yeah.
He had I think he said he's faster than me, and he beat this supposedly. This is what I read on Twitter. He beat this guy who's a professional runner, although he's like a short distance, middle distance runner. He runs 800 meters. So I'd love to hear how fast Andrew Wang is. And I'm also.
Your pace per kilometer, sorry, how much is that? Like 326 or something like that, or 330? Not 330, 325.
It would be less.
320?
It would be 312, I think.
Right.
312 kilometer pace.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's your 10K time?
I don't know. I think a lot slower, like 37 minutes or something, 38.
Okay. Here's the would you rather. I used to run. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My 10K time is at my peak, which I'm nowhere near this. It's 39 minutes. Not as fast as you on the 5K. Would you rather? And this is 6 months away. It's a battle. It's LG versus Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And would you rather that the battle is a 10K race, or who can make a TikTok video that gets the most views?
Like, which one do I think I could win at? Is that the question?
Which one would you rather compete with me in? So you have to choose, like, you're going to compete with me at this, like, summit. It's 6 months away.
Okay.
And you have 6 months to train. Would you rather try and fight me in a 10K race or in a TikTok music video competition?
No, I'd take the 10K. I definitely. Although,
not a good would you rather.
If you want to compete at either one, I'm willing. Also, Andrew Wang, if you're listening to this podcast, I'll meet you at the conference of your choice, and I will race you in the 5 kilometers. This is a call out.
Dude, you know what? I would love something. I think most, like, you know, because I've been to the last 2 NFT NYCs. We went to NFT LA, and I was like, you know what's missing from this? Like, there's NFTBA that does the 3-on-3 basketball competitions, but, like, some of those teams, they brought, like, NCAA players and shit. And I'm like, no. Like, I want NFT Olympics where it's like, there's races, there's like a bunch of different shit where we compete, like, for real, you know? Like, I'd be down for something like that. So, like, shot put, like, all this crazy shit, you know, where we all compete at these, like, this hilarious Olympic day. Okay, let's make it happen. We'll tweet at Andrew after this when the pod comes out and tell him he's got to listen and that he's been challenged on the pod, and that I feel like he can help make this happen. He's a great, you know, he brings people together really well. So, cool.
Yeah, I'm down for this, and I want it to be a bet with the proceeds going to charity. Those are my conditions. But I'll literally meet you anywhere in the world.
Okay, all right. Anywhere in the world, you, Andrew, me, whoever else is a creator of some kind or whatever it is, the challenge is on in some kind of race we're in. Okay, cool.
Also,
Jack,
I want to
never
mind. There was this guy who
you
was
have
like,
to say it now. You have to say it.
There was this guy who was like, he had like 67 followers. He was like, I was a top 3 runner at a D1 college. That doesn't and he had tweeted sometimes about crypto. That doesnn't count. I need full-time crypto people. You know, you can't, no part-timers here. This has got to be, are you all in on crypto and then are you fast? Those are the conditions.
Beauty. But, yeah, so your portfolio has to have a bunch of shitty NFTs, a certain amount of ETH, a bit of Luna, and then you also have to like prove you can run a 5K in a certain amount of time to qualify. There's a qualifier. Sure. You need to show like your qualifications, and then you can race against you and Andrew.
Agreed. Those are the conditions.
Perfect. Jack, pleasure to have you on the show, man. Thanks for coming.
Thanks. It's been a lot of fun.
And that is going to do it for us today, folks. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed that convo. And as usual, hit us up on Twitter or on our newsletter comments. We have comments in the newsletter now to let us know what you thought. Give us your thoughts on what is going on out there in the economic world. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The First Mint.